I need to do it too.
Yes, this is the official beginning bell. Now we have transported to the magical universe of now.
Sedona.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes. So welcome to this third episode of the Adapt and Thrive conversation series.
Yeah.
These talks are all about how various creators, healers, and educators in my network have risen up to the times of COVID to adapt their practices, their work to better serve their communities and their people, and to ultimately thrive in their own lives, so that we can learn from them and be inspired in that process for ourselves. So today I am here in near Sedona, Arizona. We're sitting in Coffee Creek, surrounded by
creek.
trees and bushes and occasional gunshots, but just people hanging out there shooting guns. It's all good.
Arizona.
I'm here with the luminous Jaimie Gunn,
Hi.
a very kind and calm, grounding presence in many people's lives. She is a multifaceted healer across many modalities in body work, and I'm just really happy to be sitting here with you today.
Yay, me too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as far as a beginning point, COVID's been a thing for a while,
Yes.
and we've all shifted and figured out what our sort of new groove is now. But what did just so we can let everybody know, what did your life look like and your work look like before COVID struck?
Yeah. Well, it's actually interesting because I was working and living in San Diego, California, and I had a very busy life there. I was doing massage almost 7 days a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I loved it. I love connecting with clients and serving in that way. So it actually feels really balancing me for me to be giving that much energy. But it's interesting in my journey because I want to move a lot. It's hard for me to stay grounded in one place.
Yeah.
So I'll usually get this intuition, I need to move here, and then I'll go. And it was interesting this time in San Diego because I manifested the perfect place to work. I could wear whatever I wanted. We were solely doing massage, which I loved. And it was in a beautiful neighborhood right by the beach, and I lived right by there.
Nice.
So it was like living my dream, you know?
Yeah.
But I still had this feeling like I needed to go. And so about a month before COVID actually hit, I decided to pack up all my things and move back to Arizona, just as a temporary spot. And I decided I was going to take a vacation for a month and just kind of unwind, relax. I have been doing a lot of body work, so I'm like, let's go back to self-care, And right when I was ready, right when I started reaching out to people for body work, is when the whole lockdown happened.
Oh, wow. so you had already kind of taken your step back that everyone started taking at COVID, and you were ready to hey, I'm ready to work in the world again. And then that.
Nope.
Yeah.
So it was kind of comical for me. It was actually pretty beautiful because I was staying at my parents' house and I had my mom and my dad and my sister there. So it just felt like a really beautiful time to come together with family.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before I go into where you went from there, can you tell just us a little bit more about the different modalities that you're working in?
Yeah, so I mostly focus on massage. I do a lot of intuitive body work is what I call it, but it's just a combination of deep tissue, injury massage, lymphatic drainage, craniosacral, trigger point therapy. That's mostly what I focused on. And then I also practice Thai massage. And that's more of a sequenced protocol, so it's more focused just on that singular modality. And then I also did do a 200-hour yoga certification, So I don't really teach yoga too often, but I will give stretching advice to a lot of my clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also herbal information. I
Yeah.
love the herbs. Yeah, and I do
Yeah.
a lot of intuitive drawing as well. So I have like this artistic side. I like to work with clay and little illustrations here and there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and I've seen you explore all these different worlds in the time that we've been friends. And do you feel like with the change at hand now that all of these things may be funneling together to form a different type of offering for you?
Well, it is interesting because I have explored that, and through these years, it's like I've always felt a need to learn more. So I'm studying all these different things.
Yeah.
But when it actually would come to presenting a sort of session for others, it never really felt like true for me to offer like everything together for some reason. Like massage has really been, I feel like it is my passion and my gift.
Yeah.
And all the other things, it's like beautiful. I've incorporated all these practices into my life, and it's kind of been more of like my own self-care to explore like these other avenues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, that's been a theme throughout like these conversations so far, is like a lot of people they have more time, they have less distractions in some way, and it's become more apparent that those different ways of nurturing the self are like super, super important.
Yeah, extremely.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have any idea of how to do that. So it is nice having the information, because when I talk to people about my own practices, it might inspire something in them to explore, like what are my practices,
Yeah.
how can I clear myself or, shift my reality? Because like right now I feel like a lot of people are getting stuck in these thought patterns that aren't really serving them, so
what advice would you give to the listeners for like if they find themselves in that negative thought pattern and aren't quite sure like what to do about that?
Yeah.
Like so when you encounter that, what's your path to break that negative thought
Breathing.
pattern? Yeah.
Just coming to the breath, taking a few deep breaths. That's usually what works best for me. A lot of times I'll it's like switching my thoughts completely. I'll try to focus on something that makes me extremely happy. And usually that'll just shift the energy.
Yeah. So utilizing the power of your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we underestimate that.
We do.
Yeah. And something about like COVID times has illuminated that for me a lot. Is like when you're spending more time by yourself, less distractions in the world, you start to realize really how much like where you aim your attention is affecting your being state, how you feel, how you see the world.
Yeah. And a lot of us don't even realize how often our mind can wander to these different areas, that maybe aren't serving or don't feel great, but it's like your whole universe is in that together. So it almost makes it seem like it's acceptable in a way. But I found that, when I've really tuned into like where are my thoughts going, like let them go, and it's actually brought a lot of healing to redirect and have more intention and purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like to notice when, okay, like my thoughts went here, but where's that going to take me? Do I want to keep following that and giving it energy? Or do I want to give my energy towards something that's going to nurture, develop?
And sometimes it takes a lot of work.
It does.
And it can be frustrating at times, but it is really beneficial when one day you're like, whoa, I haven't had any devastating thoughts at all today. You know?
Yeah. That came up in my conversation with Connie, where we were talking about, like, you know, if you stay dedicated to a practice, and here we're talking about the directing of attention, over time, you'll notice all of a sudden one day you're like, wow, I used to think about negative things way more than I did today.
Yeah, it's so true how
Progress
that can
happens
relate
over
to
time.
like so many different areas too, because I was just talking to our friend Eli yesterday about yoga, and he said, I'm terrible at yoga, which is a newbie's, usual always.
Right.
Like someone goes to a yoga studio.
I'm not flexible.
They can't hold downward dog, which is a resting pose. And it's like you have to understand, like, it is fascinating in yoga how you do have to keep up with your practice.
Yeah.
Like, eventually one day that pose is all of a sudden a resting pose.
Right.
And it's like amazing and incredible to like have that moment where you feel that lightness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was once strenuous and effortful becomes effortless.
Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of a quote in Light on Yoga, where Iyengar was saying how we reach perfection in a pose when we find the place of effortless effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where we're applying our intention and energy in a specific way, but not in this toiling,
Yes. Like there's no battle anymore. Like you're there and you're present with it, and it just
Yes. So
lifts
beautiful
you.
time to cultivate all that.
Yeah.
So we steered off a little bit, but it was really good. It was really good. So
bring us back.
yeah. So another thing I'm curious about, just with, how I know you and your demeanor and how you, see the world in this very loving way.
Yes.
I'm curious what your inner experience was, how you felt when COVID started happening and society started changing and people started changing, because we all had our different emotional responses to that. And that, I think, is like it's a crucial point to look at, because it was from that place that we all decided like what we're going to do with this change and the information that's coming in. So how did that go for you?
Well, it was very interesting for me because I was already like in a transition, which like no matter what, moving, reorganizing, it can always feel a little bit more chaotic. And especially moving into the space I was in, because I just have a different way of being than like a lot of my family members, so being around family often can be a challenge.
Right.
And so I'm working on, like at first it was just reorganizing everything in the house, doing a major cleanup, which it felt kind of nice that I wasn't expected to be doing anything else. Like because of COVID, I had this time in the space, to just do that.
So a space arose, and then you saw a good area where you could serve your family.
Exactly.
Yeah. And make it more suitable for you to be there.
Exactly. And it is interesting how they respond to my energy of cleaning things up, reorganizing, moving everything around. Like, they love it. They're just not the ones that want to do it.
Yeah.
So it is another way to serve.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
But you found a win-win there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was
and
great.
that's like, I love that you highlighted that scenario, because as I like delve more into the meaning of what service is, I think I used to have this idea that like service always meant like a difficult sacrifice of oneself and actions, but like what I'm learning is that like service can be us applying something that we love to do in a way that helps other people, and then we receive joy, they receive joy.
Exactly.
So I'm just seeing what you chose to do there as a great example of that.
Yeah, and it just raises the vibration for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I'm a pretty, like, I like to maintain a lot of inner peace, like in my days, And so it is interesting having like during COVID, having all these different energies sharing information with me or sharing their thoughts and feelings, because you feel like it's waves of like feeling that stress and tension. And because it's really challenging to know like what's actually true. Like a lot of people were very confused about the virus. Some people are saying masks work, some people are saying they don't. It's like all these like little battles that are happening.
Right.
And yeah, I just was working on like being able to listen and just be present and understand like what people's needs are, like how I can like be of service in that way too, like to others' needs, because I just like my goal is for everyone to feel comfortable in the space that I'm in. So yeah, it has been interesting. Like for a part of it, I had my friend who was living with me from time to time. She would go between my house and her mom's house. And she had arrived from New York City, where her and her partner both had COVID, and it was very like a traumatic time for them. And then I had other friends that, you know, wanted to come stay at the house that are mask free and, you know, don't even, some of them don't even believe that the virus exists, you know. And so I had to balance, okay, well, you want to come here, but like you're not going to like respect, like my friend will feel uncomfortable like with you being here.
Right.
So because of that, it didn't allow for the community to come together, which was just interesting, you know.
Yeah, but I'm in that story. I'm hearing like one really important thing, and a quality that you like exude is you find the way to read into those people that are in your life or that you're around and see what their needs are, and try to meet them somewhere where they can feel comfortable and safe and accepted around you. And that creates opening space for like growth and perspective to expand.
For sure.
And that is so important right now, and something that I think about all the time when I'm out there in the world. Because we're in such a divisive time, and as soon as people identify something that goes against their beliefs and other people, then all of a sudden the wall goes up. Then there's like then the othering happens, and then like we're totally cut off. But what you just talked about and what you exude naturally is the way to break that barrier down by feeling into others, seeing what their needs are, accepting where they're at, finding a place where you can connect on commonality. So I just wanted to highlight that, because it's, I feel like something we could all be working towards in order to not create more divisiveness right now. So transitioning into getting these ants off my feet.
I love how I have like no ants right now. They like your orange mat.
They must, But so as far as how your work is looking now, like let's shift into what you've had to do in order to thrive as healer Jaimie, and still do your work and provide that valuable balancing of people's energy that you do so well.
Well, that actually has been very challenging, because I haven't been able to do like the normal body work that I do.
At all, or in some capacity, or?
So I've been working more like donation based with people, because I have, I did take that cupping training. So I've been focusing more now on like what can I like learn and study right now that can like enhance my practice, because right now, honestly, I have a lot of family members that I like to see on occasion, and they're very much like they're pretty strict with their rules right now. So I can see like a few clients here and there, but I'm keeping the circle very small, which is like not normal for me. So I'm mostly just working on people that I know are, following certain practices. just because I do live in a bigger city.
Right.
So I have to make sure that everyone feels safe again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've just been practicing more on people lately.
Yeah,
with the
so
cupping.
it sounds, what I really like about what you shared is that even though you're working in a profession that you had the option to completely shut down and stop, and the experience what negativity would come from that,
Yeah.
because for obvious reasons, but you're finding a way not only to, continue your work with, maybe a narrower scope of people that abides by, the restrictions that you have, but also you're doing that in tandem with taking the time to develop.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's been really nice because when I was working in San Diego, I was doing so much. Like, I would walk everywhere. So and I love walking. That's like my major form of like connecting to nature. And it is like a form of my like physical practice every day. So it was nice, but then I would go do 9 hours of massage some days,
Yeah.
And then I'm like painting murals after work on the walls. So I was just doing a lot. Like I was very busy.
Yes.
So it has been nice to kind of like have this transition too and have more space for my own rituals to even like come back to me. Like making tea every morning, you know, and going on my 6 a.m. like long walks and doing like 2 hours of yoga, stretching if I want to, you know. So it feels like by nurturing myself more in these times and coming back to my own healing practices, it's allowing me to almost like recharge for the next wave.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I think, wherever the viewer, wherever you're at in your life and whatever work you're in, that principle, I think, applies to all of us in some way. It's
especially doing healing work.
Yeah. You can't do effective work as a healer or serving or whatever if you're not full and healthy and complete in yourself.
Yeah, it was interesting because in San Diego, I lived in this tiny house. So I didn't have a bathtub, which like bath rituals are like my favorite, like using salts to help like clear energy and meditate. I didn't realize like at the time like how much I need that. It is something that's important for my practice.
Right, because you're working with a lot of different people's energy all day, so you're absorbing that, and you've got to do your thing to clean and clear that so you can be effective.
So it's nice having a bathtub again.
Yeah. When I was staying in Texas a couple days ago, there was a room mix-up, and they ended up giving me the master bedroom, and which was great. And there was a big tub in there, and the first thing I thought was like, oh, I haven't given myself a good soak in a long time. Yeah.
It's so nice.
So that was really nice. And just like taking this time to nurture ourselves can be so difficult for some people, especially like people who are really passionate and love to do so many things. We'll run ourselves ragged trying to do what we love.
Exactly.
So I'm through, these conversations and in my own life, it's like I'm learning more and more that the deep nurturing of me is just as important part of my work as all the doing.
I'm learning that as well.
Yeah.
It's taken a while.
I know, right?
And to find that like perfect balance too,
To be able to read into yourself and intuitively feel like, is this too much? Do I need to take a step back? What's needed for me right now? And not in this like selfish way. This is the big debate around self-care, which has become almost an overused word now. I think like the barometer to use between indulgence and nurturing is like, can I keep effectively doing my work, or am I a little too fried? And if you're a little too fried, you got to nurture.
And that was interesting too, because the creative like art side of me, that's what I've realized is something that will completely like take me out of balance. Because I'll get in these creative waves where sometimes I'm up until 3 or 5 in the morning working on these art projects. And in the moment it feels wonderful.
Say no more.
So it's like lately I've been like, is art for me like a retirement thing? Is that like a hobby I'm going to come back to later? Because like it like takes me out there.
Yeah. Well, that raises a whole nother universe that that I have been exploring for myself as well. It's like, how does the following the creative impulses integrate with like building our rhythms and our rhythms of working, serving, and taking care of ourselves, They can seem to be at opposition with each other, but I'll cap that there. So with the changes and the things you've been doing to take care of you, and you mentioned like recharging to kind of prepare for the next phase of working a lot. So as that comes and as you're in this time, what sort of new ways of approaching your work do you see happening, and what maybe things did you realize were not serving you so well and you're kind of ready to move on from them? Do you see a new creative openings happening with your work?
Yeah, I definitely feel the need to be traveling more and like taking this work. I think I have lived in so many different places that I do have this vision of just being able to travel to different spots and offer services.
Yeah.
I really love like the nature time where I'm able to work in nature, and I have this vision of doing like more networking with yogi retreats or things like that, where I can go serve in different ways that I haven't done before. And also living like now in Phoenix, I have had a calling to be up north. So my goal is to move to somewhere around this area. And usually when I get to an area, I don't really have to market myself too much. I just, like, word of mouth, like, travels fast. So that's just worked out for me, I guess, in my story. So I don't really, like, think about that too much. It's kind of like opportunities just arrive.
Yeah, you trust
that
when you move on that intuition to where you need to go, that the right things will come up.
And like something that has worked for me too is when I do get to a new spot, I will usually find a place to work at least part-time.
Yeah, and that's I want to pause you there, because that's another concept I've been exploring lately, is like, what is this balance between trusting intuition and letting things manifest and like applying action? Because if we do nothing, the universe doesn't do anything for us. But when we get clear about our intention and then we apply action in a certain way, then things happen. So say a little bit more about your process there.
Well,
because it feels like you have a good balance of it.
Yeah, but for me, it's a combination of intuition and the act, the manifestation, and like putting action toward it.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking about moving back here, one of my clients in San Diego mentioned this really beautiful resort called Enchantment. Have you heard of it? It's in Boynton Canyon, which is like a super healing area of this part of the land. They say it's connected to like the higher chakras, like that area. And she told me that this place is just so incredible. So I've done a little bit of research and I looked at what they offer, and it's just amazing. Like a lot of their offerings seem more like actually spiritually based. Like they have like they have coaching, they have like Native American traditions in there. They're offering a lot of unique modalities like lymphatic drainage, things that you don't see on like every massage menu.
Yeah.
And it's offerings that I actually can give too. So I feel called to reach out to them.
Yeah.
And perhaps see if there's an opportunity there.
So you kind of actively look for the places where you'll fit well.
Exactly.
Where your offerings will be received, and then you start there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And usually, I mean, yeah, it works out pretty well, you know.
Nice. Yeah, that's a really important point, and something I've had to learn a lot. I think in my past, I've tried to offer things that I have on unfertile soil, or where it just wouldn't fit well, and I may have seen that as a setback, whereas I just wasn't putting my talents and my energy in the right place.
Yes.
So as people, as whoever's watching, as like you're working towards a new creative opening or something in your life, like looking for that place where what you're doing can be applied well, will be crucial.
For sure, definitely.
Yeah. So, lastly, I'm curious, like, what your overall, like, larger view on this whole COVID thing is. When you see humanity playing this out right now, and you just stepped way back from it, what do you see happening? What do you think is the larger picture we're in?
I am not a big social media person, or I don't watch the news, so I like stay in my little bubble a lot of times. But it is interesting because there's some, like in this time, it's unavoidable because of the conversation. It's just like the big conversation right now.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking. I like ants biting me. I like stuff. Ant break. Yeah. So, clear one on my leg. Yeah, so it is just interesting because I'm getting all these different viewpoints, and it's like, what is coming from my heart, really? Like, what I'm absorbing all this information, but how am I processing it? And ultimately, I can't say what'll happen. There's so many different ideas, people are saying things won't be normal for years, I'm finding that, in the community that I'm surrounded by, there's a lot of positivity and love, and people are still like working toward their dreams and their goals. And it's like there's such a it's like all this energy and information is so separate from like the individual, yet we're still living in it. So it just creates this interesting dynamic. But I hope that, people become more involved with themselves, and this is maybe like shaking things up to help people see where they need to work on themselves. And I think like there is a lot more tension and anxiety that's becoming more apparent, where people are like reaching out for ways to let that go and learning how to manage and handle that. And so if that is something that comes out of this, then that's really powerful.
Right. The times are holding the mirror up a lot more clearly.
Exactly.
Yeah. You touched on something, though, that I think is really valuable and applicable to everyone, no matter what walk of life they're in right now, is like this balance between digesting media, staying connected to your community, and not becoming too absorbed in that.
Yeah.
Because the more of that we take in, the more of that energy, the more fear, the more anxiety.
And we're giving power to it.
Yeah, it comes back to that thing about like where are we applying our attention, and what's that amplifying in us. And if we're always connected to the news, and we're always connected to social media and running, what we're seeing up against, our own lives, and just caught in that crazy, head trap of all that, like that's not going to enable us to come out of this embracing the more positive opportunities that you talked about, of the nurturing and developing new skills and finding ways we can serve more. So like keeping our world somewhat small and focusing on the people who are right around us, connecting and building and growing with them, I feel like is a better way to move through all of this right now.
I agree.
You know, so it's okay to media fast a little bit.
Oh yeah, I recommend it.
Come out to the desert in Coffee Creek. Hang out for a couple days. You'll feel great.
Stick your feet in some fresh water. Just love it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Jaimie, for taking this time to share, and also thank you for just the being that you are.
Thank you.
And the work that you do on yourself, and the way that you share that with others and serve other people, because the world needs people like you now.
Yes, and people like you. Thank you so much for doing this, and I just love you so much.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Shall we end with a ringing of the chime?
Yes.
Yes.
Go for it. Little butterfly.
Perfect.